Having a little camera or microphone difficulties. Hi, guys. We are the Tendys on Pattison. We are back. We took a couple weeks off for our off season. And I don't know, was there any news over the last week? Anything happen?
No, completely dead.
I mean, the Phillies lost. I don't know. So, oh wait, no, that's not what we're talking about. Oh, okay, wrong one.
No, nothing of interest. I mean, might have been a new team or something, potentially.
So the Flyers lose all-star Carson Twerwinski to the Seattle Kraken.
Hold on. I gotta dry my eyes. If anything, I'm upset that they didn't take Jake, but
I'm gonna pour one out for my homies.
Yeah, I'll stay hydrated.
Twerwinski kind of, he gets a chance to come up in the international game when they kicked off the season in 2019. Feels like forever ago at this point. It was a nice story, right? We had that behind, what was that series called, Behind the Glass? It was like the hockey's version of Hard Knocks. It's a nice story to see. Couldn't really make a permanent spot, a permanent home, up in the show, as the kids call it.
He's a dime a dozen player. I mean, and Seattle has a lot of them.
I don't know if they're dimes. They might be nickels.
Well, they're not at the cap floor, right? Like that's one thing at the end of the expansion draft. Is there $6 million under the cap floor? Or is it 6 or 16?
It's a great question.
I think it's 6. I believe they're at 54, and it's got to be 60.
No, you're right. It's 61.
And they're 54. So they're a Jake Voracek away.
Yeah. I mean, I still think something's going to happen, but let's see. Kraken. Yep, they're at 50. Oh, they don't. Cap friendly doesn't have the cap floor. That's weird.
It's 61. So they've got some work ahead of them.
11.
Yeah, they've got some work ahead of them. That's one Jack Eichel away. They don't have a forward making above $4 million. I don't believe. I believe Jordan Eberle is the highest paid forward they have on their roster. So we expected to see teams doing some of what the Flyers did today, which was trading away picks to get Seattle to take contracts, and that just didn't happen.
Nope. Good old Arizona, baby.
Didn't we trade Pronger there?
Yes.
Okay.
Detroit traded Datsuk there too. For the record, I have no ill will towards Ghost. I hope Ghost tears it up in Arizona because it ain't gonna matter because it's Arizona. But he was, he started his career off with a bang. He was awesome that first year. He was still good his second year, and he, people want to blame AV for him, but he wasn't good under the last year or two of Hack. So I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear the blame game being put on AV. Ghost has to play better. And at times this past season, he showed he was actually coming around and sort of going back to his former self. But then he would make a couple mistakes and it would spiral and then be out of the lineup. And then he also had a couple. He got dinged up a couple times, so he wasn't good enough. Period. You couldn't trust him. You couldn't trust him on the ice.
He had a better season last year than he had the previous couple seasons, right? But, and there's a big but here, he still had a hard time, even though he was one of the better, when he was on his game, he was one of the better defensemen on the team. I think that says more about what the defense looked like last season. Yeah. Yep. But at the same time, he's still, even as playing as one of the better defensemen on the team, still was getting healthy scratched, got put on waivers, didn't get claimed. I look, I hope that even if he turned down playing for my Sunday morning roller hockey team, I hope that he refines his game. I just wonder if those injuries are really what ended up really derailing his career.
I think that's what curtailed it. Like that's what, that gave him that initial, drop off in his play. And like I said, I think he was starting to come around last year. He was moving a lot better than he had in a couple of years. You sort of started to see his skating ability coming back, and he was showing flashes. But he just couldn't be trusted. And you can't pay a guy $4.5 million to be in the third pair when he's not absolutely tearing it up on the power play. You just can't. I mean, and I'm not saying it was his fault that the power play wasn't working. It obviously wasn't all his fault, and he wasn't the reason the power play was failing, but he wasn't the reason it was succeeding either. So if you're getting paid $4.5 million, you need to at least be a top 4D, or be a third pair D and tear it up on power play. And he wasn't. So it's more important to have a better second pair than have Ghost. It's just more important. So the cap room was the most important thing.
So according to Chuck, everybody there are some people, including Bundy, Chris Therien, who were upset about what it costs to clear Ghost from your roster. According to Fletcher, a team asked for Cam York, and another team asked for a first round pick in order to take that contract. So
it's a good thing I'm not a GM, because it would have been a not safe for work remark, and I would have put it all over social media. Cam York, get out of your goddamn mind.
Have you ever seen a dude play? It's just like it's the cost of doing business. I can hook you up with some Ghost jerseys. At work, I have a few. And we can't change the nameplates because his nameplate is like 4 miles long. But but anyway, it's the cost.
You're just going to get really big letters, right?
Yeah. It's the cost of doing business. I mean, Lamoriello just paid way more than that to take Andrew Ladd's deal and stick it with Arizona. Am I correct with that? Ladd go to Arizona, or is it Detroit? Can't remember.
Detroit, right?
Detroit, maybe. But like
I'll figure it out.
No one's clamoring for Lou's head. Like, yeah, and I think what really hurt Chuck was the fact that the initial report. It was Arizona?
Yeah.
Sucking up everybody's contracts.
Yeah. So, like, and they're just going through another rebuild. But what people have to realize is, like, he has to get rid of him. They needed to get rid of him, and that's the cost of doing business. He can't be on this team anymore.
Not just can he not be on this team, this team has to. I know that people don't agree. This team has to change a bit of it's not a total identity change. They need some big time. They still need some big time acquisitions, and that doesn't mean a superstar. They still need another top 4D, which Gostisbehere wasn't. Right, let's call a spade.
Right,
and they're still going to need but they still also need probably another two-way center.
Yeah,
they need a 3C. Unless Lawton's going to fill that, which I think we're all in agreement that that's not the best use of Lawton either.
No. Well, so I think when I was spacing, I think the reason why it got way more hate than it probably would have is because Friedman and the talking heads initially reported that the Flyers were getting a second and a seventh, which would have been just an unbelievable fleecing for that. But so when he had to correct himself, and it was the Flyers giving up, Ghost the second and the seventh and getting nothing but cap room, people instantly went to, this is terrible, which if it was just right from the get-go, I think it wouldn't have been as much hate.
Right.
So go ahead, Chris.
Well, my thing is like, all right, so Pat is saying, what else is Fletcher just going to give away? But the Flyers, they can do that, like, because they're so good depth wise on forwards that they can use those forwards to make an acquisition. They still have York in the minors, unless for some reason he's up. Like they could afford to give away a second round pick and a 7th round pick. They can afford to do that. Like people need to realize how good their minor league system really is right now.
What did Chuck give away? What is he giving away? You take the second round pick. What is he giving away since he's been here? What is he just straight giving away?
Oh, I don't know, but I'm assuming that's what people are looking at. Like Pat's alluding to the fact that we gave away Gostisbehere, a 2nd and a 7th, and we got nothing in return other than cap space. I don't think people realize how important cap space is in the NHL. This isn't the NFL. This isn't the other leagues. It's like you need the cap space to make a move like this. And this was a good move. It wasn't an ideal move, but it was a good move. Like
it cost you more than you wanted it to. But the deal is the deal. Ghost had zero value. Teams could have had him for free last year. The Kraken could have had him for nothing and passed on him for Twarynski. Like, so he has no value. But you need to move on from him because you need that money. You need that money for
a whole host of things.
Second pair, like.
You need a second pair. You still need to re-sign Hart, even if it's a bridge deal. You need a backup goaltender. You need a 3C, right? Like
re-sign Sanheim.
Re-sign Sanheim as well, right? He's an RFA.
Mm-hmm.
Also, if you're unfamiliar, when it comes like hockey contracts are a lot harder to move. It's a lot harder to be creative than it is in other sports. Basketball teams seem to be able to move bad contracts around. Football, you can release guys. Hockey, when you sign a guy to some term, it better be part of a long strategic plan because the assets you have to do things like this. They become unmovable, or you have to give up things. That's one. Two is the reality is a 2nd round pick in hockey is more akin to a 2nd round pick in the NBA than it is to the NFL. About 34% of 2nd round picks go on to have a 100-game NHL career. And that's not a great hit rate.
And Chuck is hoping that it's a late second. So like say 2025 or later. That's what he's hoping. He's hoping he can rebuild this team to finish in the top 7 of the league at the end of the year. And so that means if let's say he's
good.
Let's say it's a 25th. Let's say they're picking 25th. So that means in the 2nd round they're picking at almost 60. So I mean, like I'd rather have the 2nd round pick, but the cap, they're in win now mode. That 2nd round pick, if they draft whoever it is, they're 2-3 years down the line.
In best case, they're 2-3 years down the line. They might be 5 years down the line being a bottom pair player.
Yeah, I mean, you could potentially. You can. The more bullets you have, the more odds you have of hitting a home run, and the guy's able to step right in a year or two. But like you said, Griff, that the odds are stacked against that.
Go ahead, Chris.
No, I got nothing. Go ahead.
Okay, so the and again, this is not this year's 2nd round pick. It is next year's 2nd round pick.
But ideally, we would rather have it this year's because this draft is such a cluster.
This year, like it's more of a dart throw, but also there's also more likely to be better talent that falls because we haven't gotten to see enough of those young players, right? Like I think that's fair. Like we know less, but this is going to be an interesting year to go back in a couple of years to look at what worked and what didn't because we got to see so little of some of these guys.
So I'm not up to date with the NHL draft. Now, say the Flyers win the Stanley Cup, they get their last pick, correct?
Correct.
So they would get the last pick in the 2nd round as well, right?
Correct. So just Seattle was team 32, correct?
Yes.
So that'd be the 64th overall pick.
All right, so I mean, I think it's. I'm not saying they're going to get the finals, but I'm saying like you have to you have to be positive. You have to look at the outside of this, other than the fact that you just gave away three, potential players for nothing, other than salary cap rooms. But at the end of the day, if that salary, with that salary, and you're able to sign a scorer or a defenseman or that third center that you need, like it's at the end of the day, it's a good trade. We shouldn't be upset. It looks worse on paper because we legitimately got nothing back. But
Yeah, but
when
Chris,
we trade
here's
when we traded Pronger, we got Sam Gagne, got and a conditional pick, and he
That
yeah,
was
never
actually
played.
a really good deal. That was
yeah,
actually
because he was done.
Right, like that's what I'm saying. Is like, but if that's what I'm saying is like, and then he went into the Hockey Hall of Fame 3 days later. So like that's I think that's what Flyers fans look at is like, oh well, we traded Pronger for a player who ended up playing for us, and then he retired and went to the Hall of Fame. Like why couldn't we do that with Gossespierre? I'm like,
So
Gossespierre isn't going to the Hall of Fame.
part of the reason why people can't get their heads around this is because they say, well, the Flyers got nothing for him. No, they got the ability to replace Gossespierre with the money freed up. And so, yes, currently, as it currently stands, yes, we don't have a defenseman to replace him. So even though we do, but we don't want him on the team. We don't want him on the team to start the year. But like, if they go out and they sign David Savard or trade for so-and-so, Ristolainen, whoever, like, there's your replacement. And the only reason why you're able to make that trade or the signing is because Ghost is no longer there. The way the NHL works, I mean, like every section of the team has a certain price point that you need it to be at. And a third pairing defenseman that isn't, like giving your team so much more production elsewhere is not valued at $4.5 million for 3 more years or 2 more years. He's just not. So if he can't be trusted to play the top 4, then you got to move him so you can get someone in who can. And that second round pick, now with the Flyers' luck and our luck, that second round pick is going to be a Hall of Famer. But guess what? He's going to be playing in Arizona or potentially Quebec. It's the cost of doing business. You don't get Connor McDavid for Hagen a third. So
here's another thought. I don't know that you can separate this from the Ellis trade. So if we told you 2 weeks ago they gave up Ghost, Patrick, and Myers,
a second and a seventh
for Ellis, how would we feel?
We'd feel if it was in one trade, it would be like, yeesh. That's a lot for a guy with injury concerns. I mean, that straight up I would not do, but it's not straight up. You have to be able to separate it because it is 2 separate deals. If that was all one deal, I'd really want someone to check Chuck's coffee, like see what the hell is going on over there.
But you're 900,000 better against the cap, and you've added a legitimate top pairing with help, with concerns, right?
Until COVID, let's just say until COVID, maybe a little before COVID, he was, say, a top 3 right-handed D in the NHL. Am I missing something? Like, is that a bad thing? Yeah. Is there somewhat of an injury concern? Yes. But he even said in his press conference that he broke his hand, right?
His knuckle.
Was that?
A knuckle.
It was his knuckle.
So
and
it wasn't his shoulder. It wasn't the shoulder that they reported, and it's not like he has a concussion issue, and he's had injuries, but he's not Carson Wentz. So everyone just needs to take a chill pill. Is he as good as he was in 2017 when the Preds went to the Cup? Probably not, but he's not. He is what they need. They have the cost locked down, and they don't have to worry about signing him in a year or anything like that. Like, he's going to be there, and he's going to be I think he'll be a fan favorite. He's not your big bruiser, but he sort of embodies a little bit of what the city wants. He's sort of an underdog because of his size, and he works his tail off, and he gets in there and he's gritty, no pun intended, and he's a ginger, so we have another soulless bastard that'll take Voracek's ginger spot once Jake gets moved. But it just dawned on me, the Flyers gave away Patrick. They didn't give away Patrick. They used him as another form of credit to get Ellis, which I don't. By the way, I don't understand why Vegas traded Glass for him, but whatever.
It's their GM, right? Their GM was part of the week for part of Brandon. Yeah,
he coached him.
Yeah, so that's part of it. But then I also think that so the Flyers deal him, and then you start to see. Oh, when he was drafted, there were concerns about his compete level. There were concerns about
coachability. Yep,
coachability and all of those things. And look, I don't know ill will towards the kid. No, it never panned out. He needed to change his scenery. I don't hate him. I hope that he figures it out in Vegas. But it's not like we're seeing something different than what those concerns were.
No, and people, I stupidly read comments, and people are saying, well, he's going to become a first-line center and in Vegas and this and this and this, which they need a first-line center because Chandler Stevenson is not a first-line center, but he is not it. Nothing. He has shown nothing that he's going to be a first-line center. Now, could he be a sheltered third-line center out there? Sure. They have plenty of other good players out there and a good system and a good coach that will help him develop.
So you're saying he's not going to score 50 points like people have said?
He could. He can score 50 points. That doesn't make him a first-line center.
I disagree.
I mean, agreed. Myers is a much bigger loss, but you have to give to get. And right now, as we've talked about, the Flyers are in win now mode. And right now, as we speak today, July 22nd, 2021, Ryan Ellis is better than Myers. I mean, it just is what it is. Now, he's going to be in a really good defensive system, and he's going to become a good defenseman. But, I think he's going to be good, but you need a guy now that can produce now, not 2 years from now be ready to to finally fulfill a top 4 role.
Yeah, I think that look, having a guy with that size, he's deceptively fast. We're fans of his game, but here we are. We can either decide we want to keep retooling and be one of those teams again. Or we can make moves to try and win now. And if it fails, you're still retooling.
Yeah. I want to address something also. The fact that I was reading a lot of people, diving off the deep end. Like when Fletch said that they are planning on the cap being somewhat similar for the next 2 years or 3 years. And people are saying, well, they're going to be in cap hell again, blah, blah, blah. Well, the goal is to get good. And when you're good, what do you end up with? No cap space. I mean, because if you're good, that means you have what? Good players. And what do good players do? They get paid. They make lots of money. Tampa Bay is in cap hell. Are they going, oh my God? No, they're still hung over from their second straight Stanley Cup parade. Now, I'm not saying that means the Flyers are going to win a cup, but in order to make a legitimate shot at a cup, you need to spend to the cap. You have to. I mean, what other teams aren't spending to the cap?
And somehow when your team plays well, these kinds of players actually fetch more, even though they're more expensive. When your team is bad, people don't value your players as much.
Yeah. Outside of Tyler Johnson, Who on Tampa Bay would someone not want right now? Maybe Stammer just because of the total dollar amount. But
but
I mean, like, no one on that team you wouldn't want.
I definitely wouldn't take Kucherov.
Nah, who wants him? Guy misses an entire year. I want guys that are available.
He's still drinking.
I was going to say I don't think he has a shirt on yet, but
yeah,
that's.
Listen, you guys alluded to that like earlier, like when we first started doing this, about the moves that would be made, at the trade deadline before the finals, before we even, I think we were like the 4th or 5th episode, and you guys just kept alluding that it's going to be hard to make moves because of the flat cap. Chuck's not going to make a move, and he didn't make a move, the move, and fans lost their mind. Well, now they go and they make 2 moves, and it's still not good enough. Now,
wait, they made 2 moves? I thought they weren't supposed to make any.
But
professional.
But I can't stand you. So they made the 2 moves, and then we got rid of Nolan Patrick, who is apparently the next Brett Hull. If you go on social media, and I didn't.
But everybody cried about him during the season.
Correct. No one wanted to see him go, but it was a move that needed to be made
for both parties.
Again, right, like value. He didn't have any value.
It was
a guest. We have
a couple of guests. A lot of action. But the point being is that it was a good move for both parties. He had to get moved. He was not performing. Like, what else do you have? They wanted him to fill a 3C role. Prior to his migraine issue, they wanted him to fill a 2C role. One of the reasons Vegas wanted him is they felt like the Flyers mishandled his development because he was pushed ahead too fast.
Which is true.
I'm not, but that doesn't mean that necessarily he's all of a sudden like the cat's out of the bag. Those development years you don't get back. So what do you do now? But on top of that, you have to make moves to free up roster spaces too. You got Morgan Frost is going to be coming back from injury. What do you want to do with him? You've got some kids, you're going to see what's his name's going to the other young ginger. He's going to play up in the league this year. He came up at the end of the season. Why is his name escaping me? Hard-nosed kid.
Are you talking about Jackson Cates? Or
No.
Aaron Lazinski?
Lazinski.
So,
yeah, I mean,
what career was better for Nolan Project? Was his Flyers career or his Nashville career? Like, what had more of an impact?
The young. I give the Predators, first of all, the NHL social media game for the teams is pretty good. I mean, Vegas really started it off when they came in, and their Twitter account has always been on fire. And I
remember Vegas greasing the poles when the Flyers were visiting right after the Super Bowl.
Yes. And then got to give credit. Well, first, typical ESPN, the Carolina Panthers. That was just like typical.
McCaffrey's playing center.
Yeah. But then Carolina, the Hurricanes Twitter account puts in with the asterisk Hurricanes and then at ESPN, and then they did a hand drawing of a Carolina Panthers head and updated their profile pic. That was pretty good.
And then
they leaned into this.
And then the Kraken stepped in and drafted, Aaron Donald and Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah,
it is funny how the sports teams do manage their social media accounts. They have fun with it, and that's what you need.
Yep.
The Hurricanes really leaned into that bunch of jerks thing as well. That was a fun thing. So, yeah, I think the league is trying, and those teams are trying to make the league more fun. It's just we're gonna have to see what ESPN does in that regard as well.
I sort of disagree with Patrick. I think NBC had become stale and boring, and I think ESPN is going to try to make it. I mean, and because they're also on TNT, correct? With the second network, so like they're going to try to make it. Hopefully, like especially considering we talked about this last episode, how they're going. They're going to. They brought in Chelios to. They didn't say exactly what his role is, but he's a guy that's just going to speak his mind, and they need that. They need personality to show their personality, and yeah, there's going to be mistakes. And I think a lot of the draft picks by Seattle yesterday were leaked earlier in the day, mainly by Frank Saravalli. But I think it was twofold. I think ESPN was leaking like a pirate ship, and I also think Seattle having so many of their players there that they took, that led to leaks as well. Because if I remember right, Vegas only had Fleury, if I'm not mistaken. I don't remember. That was 4 years ago. I've drank way too much since then. But like when you have all those players that are coming there, they know they've been drafted. They know they're not getting traded anywhere else. They're telling their friends and family, and it's going to get out. Just life. It's what happens. So I think of course, it was sort of a buzzkill to ESPN's first televised hockey event in over 14 years, 13 years.
What's that? The ESPN?
Yeah.
16 years. It ended after 2004, 2005.
That's right.
They didn't pick up the option, which was $60 million. But think about that. Like 16 years ago, $60 million. Like that was for one season.
Yep. Push hockey off live TV. No, because I don't think the NBA will completely push hockey off live TV because the NBA regular season is dull and there's so many teams. Unlike the NHL has very good competitive balance. The NBA does not have that. And, this year's wonky with COVID and everything. But when you go into an NBA season, there's 6 teams that could legitimately win the championship, if that.
Some years it's 2.
Yeah, some years it's 2. I mean, it was 3 straight years. LeBron played Cleveland. Played
Golden State.
Golden State. Jesus. In the finals. I mean, that's just boring. Like the end result. Like, just get there. It's not inspiring TV. So, and in the playoffs, generally the first 2 rounds are especially the first round is laughable, and the second round only half the series are competitive. So
it would depend what markets get there.
Yeah, no, and we talked about. I think they're going to start eating up. I mean, it's different seasons, obviously, but in the beginning of baseball season, no one, hockey's going to dominate that because of playoffs and the end of the regular season, and baseball outside of the opening week, it's just like, oh sweet, we won game 12, we only have 150 more. So I don't think, and the NBA is not going to push them. They wouldn't have brought them on to just push them off.
Yeah, they spent a lot of money. Spent a lot of money.
Right.
So they're going to have to fit. That's beyond our pay grade with how they're going to do their programming schedule. I think that what will always dictate what's getting aired on what channel is what market and what star. That is what's going to dictate where it lands on any given channel on any given night. And they're going to have to figure it out. But they spend a lot of money. They're not just going to push it off. Plus, to be honest, ESPN has an app, there are just think there are ways to get what you want to see. That is the way we
Exposure.
get, the way that we get content, and content is everything, is just different, and it's gonna be even more different 3 years from now. And like an actual like broad, like I'm gonna put on Channel 7. It's just it's not
ESPN's going to
long.
give the league more eyeballs, and it's just the bottom line, and the league needs it. And they got a really good deal. Like they got way more money they were going to get from NBC, who wanted out anyway. But like they're going to get more eyeballs, and I want them to be creative with it. I think at first I was like, I rolled my eyes. I'm like, great, ESPN's back. Can't wait for them to leave. Like when they put out the standings, I can't wait for them to leave a team out of the standings, like they left the Flyers out of the division realignment last year. But I mean, they're going to have their mistakes because there's this huge conglomerate. And hold on 1 second. Sorry, you guys talk to me 1 second.
Yeah.
You go.
So I was going to pull him off, but I can't do it on my end. Anyway, point being is he the way that they're going to have to deal with what they're putting on is, and we've discussed it, and I'm sure everybody has. The NBA doesn't care how good the breakdowns of games are by their in studio like analysts. They care that they're entertaining. You know, like they care that they draw chatter, and the NHL is going to have to do a little bit of that. And I think that what Paul was getting at with Chelios is that's what you're getting. You're kind of trying to get hockey's version of Barkley.
Yeah,
you know, he doesn't have to go on and break down X's and O's.
No,
right. He's too concussed anyway.
No, he's probably drank too much.
Well, that too.
He strikes me. He's this really tan, Italian dude that has his bar restaurant. He just day drinks all day because he's retired. He probably played 2 rounds of golf, and he's going to go to the studio and speak his mind and call people out. And it's going to be nice. It's going to be a breath of fresh air, and it's just like he said, easy solution to getting more eyes. Yep, that's true. Tickets and concessions are more accessible in cost. Yeah, but that's not going to change, especially now. I mean, like owners, companies, they're going to try to recoup as much money as possible that they've lost. Prices are not going down. They're not. You look at across.
No, they might have to add perks or something like that to your packages. Yeah,
it depends on the market. The Flyers will. The fan base is not happy. Even if they continue to make big moves, they're still going to have to do something for the fans. And to their credit, they've been trying over the last couple of years. You take Gritty out of the equation. They've renovated the arena.
The concourses, the seats.
The concourses are beautiful. The suites are awesome. You have the bar. The bar is at the end, at the one end that looks right out onto the ice.
They've changed the skybox area. Like they've done a lot to try and redo.
Yep. Yeah. So they're trying
experience
as much as possible, but with the Flyers, much like the Sixers at one point, like you need to fix the on ice, on court product in order to get people coming back regularly, especially when you have 41 home games and an 82 game regular season, because there's going to be off nights and stuff like that. And a Tuesday night against the Carolina Panthers, that people aren't going to want to go. And you need stuff to, make it attractive to get people down there. And they've been doing it. And I know they're trying to do that. So hopefully it continues.
I get what you're saying, but I think it's going to be hard to do that only because there's going to be so much hockey to watch now. Like hockey is becoming ratings are going up in hockey, and there's going to be like 5 different ways to watch them. They're going to be on Hulu Live. They're going to be on ESPN. They're going to be on TNT. Like a lineup like that is like TNT has their new wrestling AEW. So they're going to have that, and then they're going to have the 10 o'clock San Jose Sharks game. So it's going to be hard to get fans to come out when they have so much easy access to watching the games, as opposed to the past when we talked about on our previous shows. Is it was the Flyers, and you hopefully you got the ESPN, game of the week. But now it's 100 different games are going to be shown this season between ESPN and TNT and Hulu Live and NHL TV. Like it's amazing how many games they're putting out there, different games on top of the 82 the 82 home games, the 82 games we'll watch for the Flyers.
I mean, we're not talking about the COVID, screwed up season.
No,
I mean, just in general, I thought hockey was on the up and up. The Flyers ratings were actually better. If I remember the post, the Flyers ratings were actually better than the Sixers at one point this season.
I believe it. I believe it. Listen, I watched a lot of hockey, and I think talking at work, like because people got excited last year. People got excited, when they beat Montreal, when they went to Game 7 with the Islanders. So people generally got excited. The average Philadelphia fan was like, oh, this team's going to be good. They're pretty. There's a chance they could get to the finals, at least to the Eastern Conference. So everybody tuned in, and unfortunately they were disappointed.
They laid an egg,
but they still tuned in.
But so here's my question, because I do think that TCAN Rises is correct. Is like overall viewership is down since 2012, but I guess my question is, because I don't pay attention to ratings because I don't care if people like what I like. So you guys might know better. The ratings for everything is down, like even the NFL, right? Like actual raw eyes, because there's so much entertainment available, right? At every hour, everything that's ever been made in the history of television can be found. So
you can actually stream it, so those ratings don't get added in to the YouTube TVs, to the Hulu Lives. For some reason, they're not added in yet. They will eventually get it in there. That's why ratings are down, because people can watch it on the internet. They can watch it everywhere else. It's hard to get a Nelson rating on an actual, football, hockey, baseball game.
Right. Like that was my question, is like the ratings for everything, like the way that we used to measure it, are down. And is it really down, or is it just the metrics are screwed?
Yeah. I just brought up the NHL ratings by year, and let's start. All right, so we'll start in 2012. So it was in millions, 3.01 in 2012, 5.85, 5.6, dipped to 3.9 in 2016. 2017, 4.7, 2018, 4.8, 2019, 5.33. 2020 was 2.15. Now that's in COVID. So if you look, the last 3 years, it was gaining. We were gaining ground. So I don't see, and ESPN's only going to help it. And like you said, the streaming number, the streaming is not taken into account for that. And that will also, they have to find a way. I don't understand. I mean, in 2021, how they haven't been able to figure out how to put that into its own ratings section.
So
I just don't think they do. I just don't think they have an interest in it. I think that by not counting those things in and why I'm saying this is it helps them in negotiating if they're not measuring it correctly. It helps them in negotiating their contracts for that content.
Right. Well, I'm looking at the contract right now between ESPN and Turner, not including playoff games. It looks like it's 172. Turner has the rights to 72 regular season games, while ESPN and ABC have 25 regular season games, and then 75 additional games will stream on ESPN and Hulu. That's a lot. Again, that's a lot of hockey. Like,
So, like, if they weren't getting, if there was no ratings at all, why is ESPN paying 400 million per year for the rights?
Yeah, and my hope too is like that they're paying this money and they want to like. My hope when this contract was added is that these platforms are going to try and do a little bit of what has been done with football in a certain degree and basketball, where you can get like a coach's angle, obviously after it's aired, like not live, but you can get a full overhead shot, and you can get different access because they've already bought into a different kind of feed.
Yep.
yeah, and another reason that they paid 400 million is one, they have access to it, but like they more or less it's a monopoly because now they have the access to everything. Now the next thing that they're going to work on, I guarantee, is the jersey contracts, the uniform contracts. So depending how that goes,
I think I could be wrong, but I think Adidas, they just re-upped Adidas
okay, they did
like 2 years ago. I'm not positive about that, but I think they did.
I mean, but like another thing is, as crazy as this is going to sound that I'm going to say out loud is now ESPN can sell like not that they didn't before, but now they can officially promote and sell their product in Disney World because it's all owned by ABC. So like, there's the downtown Disney area, there's the stores, the stores inside. It's all about money at the end of the day. Like they're going to pay $400 million this year. They're probably going to make 800 million. Yeah. At the end of the day, they're going to double their earnings. I have no doubt in my mind.
My hope is that
just off of revenue.
My hope though, like, so there's a couple things that we're hoping for. One is they bring more color to the color commentary or analysis, but also they go back to an era where they really marketed their stars. I think that has been what the NBA has done really well. And I get that it's different. You're talking about 5 players versus, 12 offensive players and 6 defensemen, 2 goaltenders. Like I get that it's different and they wear helmets, but at the same time, there was a point in time where hockey, like the biggest name in hockey was a household name, and I'd like to see now that you're going to, with Disney owning it, right? Like this ESPN is owned, but these are owned by Disney. ABC, they're owned by Disney. You want to get kids' eyes on stars.
Exactly. And how easy is it to throw a Claude Giroux jersey on Mickey Mouse? Now you can do it. How easy to throw a Connor McDavid jersey on Mickey Mouse or on Goofy or any of them. Now, if you have your Stanley Cup parade, maybe you can promote that somehow after like a Stanley Cup final. The Florida Panthers, maybe they can tie in a Disney, like ESPN will tie in a Disney promotion. Like I said, they're going to make money. Disney has all those parades, the Christmas, the Thanksgiving, the New Year's, all that. They're gonna tie the NHL into that. Like, their marketing is going to be there. They would be stupid to not use that because, like you just said, like you just alluded to, getting kids involved.
That's how the sport grows.
Right.
So the Adidas has a contract for 3 more years, including this upcoming season. So I know Under Armour is very close to getting it last time, and we'll see. I know they were offering a lot of money, and Adidas last second came in because we were hearing rumblings that it was going to be Under Armour. But hopefully Adidas keeps it, and there's no changes. But getting back to the task at hand, that's rebuilding the Flyers. I think so. Looking at it, they have $13.8 million in current cap space. You need to re-sign Hart, a backup goalie, Sanheim, another defenseman. But that's really about it. Maybe Sam Morin. But as we talked about earlier, they need to do more than that. Whether it's through trade, I still think they're going to open up more cap space. I think I still think they're going to move Voracek, which someone had come out online saying that Voracek, officially requested a trade. That was our boy Eklund. He said there was an E4, but it was already, Chuck had already discussed with Voracek that he was going to be left unprotected, and that they were going to look to move him otherwise. So I don't understand, why Voracek would suddenly want a request a trade. He knows they're going to try to trade him. So
what do we think the likelihood of flipping, like a hockey move of flipping Tarasenko and Voracek?
I think that makes the most sense. Problem for problem, because and I think the Flyers would have to give a little bit more, because Tarasenko is, even though he has the major shoulder injuries, it was one injury with a couple botched surgeries, which is why he wants out of St. Louis. Well, one of the main reasons. He is a year less on his contract and $1 million less per year than Voracek. So that would open up another $1 million in cap space and give the Flyers a player that they haven't had, a shoot first player. Again,
That's a team full of setup men.
Yes. The only concern is his injuries, which is a major concern. But again, you're talking about problem for problem. Voracek can still play. He can still contribute. But when you look at the players, it's not even close. If you look at all Tarasenko's and people, you can't even – Tarasenko is also a better 5-on-5 player than Voracek is. So, to me, it's a no-brainer. I mean, obviously, there could be a possibility of him being out. And availability is an ability, but they need to change it up, and I think it's worth the risk for basically 2 more seasons.
So I still think their first pick gets moved.
Yeah, I mean, Chuck said he was taking calls on it. So I think it's the likelihood of it is pretty high. But
it's not going to be Jake in a first, though. Like a first would be part of a different kind of package.
No, because St. Louis is limited because he only has 10 teams, I think.
Yeah,
I think it's a 10-team
and the
list.
Flyers are one of them. Yeah,
the Flyers are one of them. He is also his value is lower because he's only played 34 games in the last 2 seasons. And even the year they won the cup, he was hurt for a small portion of that. So that really hurts the value. And his cash is actually higher than his cap hit this year, which is another hit to his to their leverage. So I don't think it's going to be as expensive. To be honest, if I was St. Louis, I think it makes sense to me. But it's a hockey move. The Flyers have all the risk. St. Louis doesn't have any of the risk. And
Voracek's a legitimate top 6 forward. I mean,
correct. He's frustrating at times, but he needs a change of scenery, and the Flyers need a change of scenery with his roster spot. So, yeah, I mean, and as far as defensively, I mean, the options are out there. You could still look at Minnesota. I brought up Dumba before, but Suter getting bought out sort of changes things. They don't have to move anyone, but they're still going to be in a bit of a cap crunch. It's not really so much for this year, but next year, because the buyout hits for Parise and Suter are much larger next year than this year. And then you have your UFAs. I browsed the list. Suter. It sounds like Suter and Parise are going to Long Island. We off air we talked about Yandel, but he doesn't really fit the need what they really need. Nicholas Jarmelson from Arizona wouldn't be a bad get because he blocks a ton of shots. David Savard, again, a guy 30, play, top 4 for Tampa Bay or 4 or 5, whatever you want to call it. A 50 with Tampa Bay is good enough to be a top 4 hit with the Flyers. Ian Cole is another cheap option. Alec Martinez from Vegas. I don't think Vegas is going to have the cap room to bring him back. So there's UFA options, and it'll be
there's trade options, right? We talked about Ristolainen. Buffalo's looking to pretty much trade just about everybody. Reinhardt has been mentioned.
Ristolainen of the guys they actually have signed.
Yeah, well, that too. But they're in another rebuild, but they've got to figure out what it is they're doing. So I think Risto fits, especially putting him in a second pair, takes him out of some of the pressure that he was taking in Buffalo.
Also, it'll make him happy.
Yes.
And it's obvious when players are happy, they play better. When they're not happy, they don't. And actually, Voracek is a perfect example of that. He's a prime example. So I think Risto he just wants that. I think he just wants that change to where he's not counted on to be the best defenseman. He just wants to be one of the boys. He wants to be one of the 6, and especially one of the 4, and kill penalties, bring his nastiness. I think he's the type of player the Flyers could really use.
Yep. So on that note, I'm going to pull up the show lineup for Philly Sports Alliance. Don't mind me. We'll keep talking as this is up. We're on at 7 tonight. Our normal show time is 5:30. Otherwise, we are airing Tables, Ladders, and Chairs is also going on right now. Am I correct with that?
Yeah, it looked like they were on.
Okay. Normally their showtime is a little later, but they're going on now. The Philly broadcast is on tomorrow, 6:30. Monday's the Football Smack Talk show. Is Monday at 5:30 the Diamond Club, Chris, or did you guys move again?
It's 5:30. It's generally 5:30 unless one of us has an issue, but we try to get there.
You can talk about Dansby Swanson's grand slam that he just hit.
Off of who? Oh, don't say that. I have it on behind me. I haven't turned around.
Don't.
Wednesdays, you get the Bald Eagle podcast, 6 p.m. Mike Sports, 6 p.m. on Wednesdays. There's a lineup. There's a show pretty much every day of the week. Some days of the week you get 2. No weekend shows. Check it out. You got pretty much everything hit. Some of these shows are 4 for 4s. Some are football only. Some are Philadelphia centric.
I do want to clarify something. I commented on the Bald Eagle podcast last night, and last night. And,
Bald Eagles last night.
Yeah, and I have sausage fingers, and instead of saying "Go Eagles," I hit "Go Jess." I do not have a girlfriend named Jess. I'm happily married to my wife Katie. So there is no girlfriend named Jess.
Told on yourself. On yourself.
One woman is hard enough to please. 2 women is not happening.
Now, Griff, are you still working on UFC show, or is that not?
So it's in discussion. I think we're in discussion for third chair. We're figuring it out. So we'll see where that gets us. Named to be TBD, day and time TBD. But
as is the Sixer show. On that Sixer show that's coming, it will be. I think the debut is August 8th. It's a Sunday.
I hope everyone wished Ben Simmons a happy birthday the other day.
A bon voyage.
That dude's worth a gazillion dollars. He's not worried what we think about him, unfortunately.
Oh, wow, clearly. Otherwise, he would have been working on his game.
He's a car guy, so I'm only going to give him such a hard time as a fellow car guy. So that's the lineup on Philly Sports Alliance. We will be back next Thursday to talk about everything else that didn't happen between shows.
I will not be here as I will be in Florida.
No dedication.
I'm calling in for Wildwood, baby. I don't know.
All right.
Yeah. You're out of your mind.
We will see you guys next Thursday, minus Chris.
Guys, have a good night. Thanks for listening, TK and Rises and Pat.